Today, we are breaking down the Halloween timeline and explaining the different timelines that exist in this horror franchise starring Michael Myers. Welcome everybody, this is Mike from fearshop.com. Make sure you like this video, make sure you leave your comments, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Smash that like button for me, definitely will appreciate it. Let me know what you like about this video and the other videos. Also, let me know what kind of videos you definitely want to keep hearing more about. Stick around till the end for the topic of the day as well. Alright, so I've been saying I'm going to break down the complicated history and various timelines in the Halloween franchise for a while. It's time to do just that. Be prepared to get confused or befuddled or whatever you want to call it, but hopefully we'll learn something along the way. The Halloween franchise has been a terrifying audience since John Carpenter brought the Boogeyman to life 40 years ago. There's plenty of duplicators out there, but there is something to be said for the simplicity of the Halloween movies. Let's start at the beginning, obviously, the one portion of the timeline that all films honor. So from 1963 to 1978, the original film opens up in 1963 and provides the first glimpse of a young Michael Myers when he stabs his older sister Judith to death on Halloween night. Michael's hospitalized at Warren County Smith Grove Sanitarium following the attack, and then 15 years later, on October 30th, 1978, Michael's on his way to be escorted to court when he steals Dr. Sam Loomis's car to escape back to his hometown, Haddonfield. Obviously, Sam Loomis is splashed in and how he was a doctor and how he tried to reach him and nobody knew Michael like Sam. So, the following night when he escapes is when Michael begins his killing spree and he develops his obsession with Laurie Strode. The first Halloween film concludes with Loomis saving Laurie. So he gets shot 6 times, he knocks him off the balcony, yet his body's missing when they go to examine it. So, we're back in 1978 for Halloween 2. The sequel picks up immediately after the events of the first film, even though it was produced 3 years later. Laurie is now hospitalized following her attack, and Michael follows her over to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. This is where he starts to carry out a murderous rampage on everybody that tries to keep him away from Laurie. This is also the film where it's revealed that Laurie is Michael's younger sister who was given up for adoption as an infant. Not only is this familial connection provided, but the film adds in some more supernatural lore. Michael's driven to kill his younger sister in order to fulfill the curse of Sam Hain. The film concludes with the threat of Michael Myers supposedly over when an explosion that Dr. Sam Loomis causes consumes both himself and Michael. So at the end of this film, basically before there is the explosion, Michael also gets shot in the eyes. I mean, the franchise is over at that point, right? What are you going to do at that point? You can't have a guy with no eyes. Well, I guess we have had in a couple horror movies, but Halloween 2 was added a couple things to the original one. Keep in mind, we'll talk about it later, but the most recent Halloween, which is the Halloween in 2018, actually ignored Halloween 2, even though Jamie Lee Curtis was in it. It also ignored H2O, which Jamie Lee Curtis was in. And everybody ignores Resurrection, even though she was barely in it. Alright, so now we're at 1982 for Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. At this point, John Carpenter's intention was to end the Michael Myers portion of Halloween and turn the series into an anthology where each film would tell a different horror story set on a Halloween night. So 1982's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is the first and only step in this direction. The film looks at an evil novelty company that uses the magic of Stonehenge to weaponize Halloween mass against children. It's also featured one of the most spectacular jingles in a horror movie. To say it's addicting is not... So, originally, the fans were not very responsive to this change in the series. It did not do well in the theaters. People were hating the movie. So Carpenter's anthology plan was scrapped, and Michael would be back in full force in the following entry. However, Jamie Lee Curtis declined to return to the series Halloween had to set up a new target for Michael, which leads us to the Jamie Lloyd saga of the next 3 films. Keep in mind, too, even though Halloween 3 just bombed back in the day, it has since become a cult classic that people love. Some people even go far enough to say it's their favorite film in the series. I don't entirely agree, but it is a good movie. So now we're at 1988, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This is the first of a few reboots for the series. You had to suspend a little disbelief, so Michael and Loomis both survived their fiery deaths from the end of Halloween 2. Michael has a few scars and is doing fine, awakening 10 years after the fact from a coma. He's in the process of being transferred back to Smith Grove Sanitarium, but upon hearing that not only has Laurie Strode died in a car accident, but that she also left behind an 8-year-old daughter, Jamie Lloyd, and thus Michael's niece, the Shape awakens and does the whole murder and escape thing again. He returns to Haddonfield to track down Jamie, and then meets her older foster sister, Rachel, as well as back-in-action Dr. Loomis, who's hot on their trail. So during the film, you see Jamie pick out a Halloween costume of a clown similar to the one that Michael murdered his sister in. At the end of part 4, Michael's taken out with some gunfire, knocking him down a mine shaft, which is supposed to be a metaphor for him going to hell. The film attempts a shocking final visual that has Jamie attack her foster mother. With Michael now out of the picture, it looked like Jamie would become the killer in the following entry as this evil passes on. Dr. Loomis even attempts to kill her before he is thwarted by the police and Jamie's foster father. Now, 1989, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. By the way, we've recently had done a video on Halloween 5, Awesome or Awful, so make sure you're checking that video out as well. We dig in a little bit more and we really find out what our thoughts on the movie and give a verdict of awesome or awful for Halloween 5. So now in 1989, gone is the plan for Jamie to become a new killer. Jamie's completely normal after attacking her mother, except for being unable to talk, or just is not talking. She eventually will later in the film. So Michael's rescued by a hermit and left in his shack for a year not moving. That part's always been so odd to me. Like, how much of a recluse is this guy that he would have somebody in his shack not moving for a year? So odd. 1 year later, Michael awakens to find Jamie again. We also start to see scenes with the mysterious man in black, but we have no idea who he is yet. Michael and Jamie also have a psychic connection now. So at the end of the film, Michael's captured by Loomis in this movie and he's taken into police custody. The cliffhanger with the film is that the man in black walks into the police station, shoots everyone up off screen. Jamie goes back into the police station to see that everyone's dead and Michael's escaped. They wanted to tell us something more with the story, but did not know what to do at the time. It definitely sets up an interesting cliffhanger for the final film in this trilogy, though. And in 1995, we have Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. This film took forever to come out. We all wanted to see who the man in black was. I remember talking about it nonstop every year around Halloween, probably every other day in between as well. So Curse goes all in with the supernatural mythology and attempts to explore the source of Michael's evil. The film tries to push a firm explanation for both Michael's motives. Most fans felt this to be unnecessary. I ate it up, though. Apparently, Michael's been chosen as a conduit by the Rune of Thorn, a cult to become the serial killer juggernaut that he is. So, this curse indicates that Michael becomes the cult's vessel and is forced to murder his entire family as some kind of sacrifice for the protection of mankind. The cult of Thorn are all chosen people who risk everything to protect their vessel so he can complete their goal. This contradicts the Samhain curse from Halloween 2, but largely becomes the focus of this film. At the start of the film, Jamie's been kidnapped. It's 6 years later. Jamie's been recast from fan favorite Danielle Harris to J.C. Brandy. The cult uses Michael to impregnate Jamie. After she gives birth to Michael's son, she's able to escape with her and Michael's son with a little help. Jamie dies quickly, but leaves the baby at the train station. Tommy Doyle, yes, the original Halloween's Tommy Doyle, who Laurie Strode was babysitting that first night. He heard Jamie on a radio station. He played it back a bunch of times and realizes that she made the call from the train station because of the background noise. Since the first film, Tommy has been a little obsessed with Michael Myers. By the way, Tommy Doyle is played by Paul Rudd, who's awesome in this movie. So Tommy makes his way to the train station, finds the baby. He decides to protect the baby from Michael. The Cult of Thorn is a cult of druids who believe that in order to save themselves from a demon that spreads sickness and death, the cult places a curse on a child from their tribe, currently Michael Myers. The child is then possessed by Thorn, which gives the child superhuman abilities and controls them to kill their entire family on the night of Samhain, otherwise known as Halloween, when the Thorn constellation appears. So they planned to place the curse on Danny Strode after Michael made his final sacrifice. During the film, we see that Dr. Wynn is the leader of the cult. The cliffhanger for the curse of Michael Myers is interesting because Dr. Loomis is branded as Michael's new guardian by Dr. Wynn as he's dying. As interesting of a direction this would have been, Donald Pleasance's real-life death effectively ended those plans, and this is more or less ends the first full Halloween timeline in 1995, where it's implied that Michael finally kills Dr. Loomis off-screen. At least we hear sounds that make us think that that's the case. Horrible way to end Loomis's run in there, but at the end of the day, it's not like the latest Star Wars movie where they had, clips laying around from Carrie Fisher to do some of this stuff. So it is a shame. Also, it's worth mentioning there's a few different versions of Halloween 6 out there. There's the one that we know, and then there's also the producer's cut, which was way different. I love the producer's cut version of the film, by the way. All right, back to the timeline. 1998, Halloween H2O. This is now the first major reboot of the Halloween franchise. 1998 marked the 20th anniversary of the original film, and the series decided to take a rather different approach and put out Halloween H2O 20 years later. The film marks the second timeline in the franchise and is set 20 years after the conclusion of Halloween 2, choosing to ignore the Jamie Lloyd material, although the character was mentioned in the original script, which is interesting, if not even more confusing. Laurie's faked her death and changed her name to Kerry Tate so as to elude Michael for all of these years. H2O has a great fight between Laurie and Michael, with Laurie injuring Michael, who gets taken away in an ambulance. Knowing Michael's history, Laurie decides to follow the ambulance to end this for real. Michael awakens, kills the EMTs, the ambulance is driven off the road, and Michael's pinned down between the ambulance and a tree. Laurie then decapitates Michael, and it's all over. Well, not really. So, 2002, Halloween Resurrection. This is what happens when money drives a project rather than passion. Jamie Lee Curtis was just appalled at how the existence of this film could undercut H2O's ending, and has since inferred she only did the film due to contractual obligations. However, she demanded Laurie be killed off very early, so her story would be over. So, the film does that in exactly one swift moment. Halloween Resurrection's opening scene undoes all of the goodwill that the previous film earned. A distraught, frightened Laurie is murdered by Michael after spending 3 years in a mental institution. It's an awful end to such a powerful character. Since you're wondering how Michael survived the decapitation, the film explains that. Apparently, Michael put his mask on an ambulance driver and switched places with him. So Laurie actually decapitated an innocent man, and her evil brother got away free. The rest of Halloween Resurrection sees a bunch of teenagers set up an internet reality show in Michael's childhood home in Haddonfield. So Michael returns, but Busta Rhymes electrocutes Mikey to death before the film's over. With that disastrous ending, this timeline's conclusion sees Busta Rhymes, reality show producer, as the true champion over Michael Myers. Yikes. Alright, 1991 to 2007. Now we go back in time. Rob Zombie's Halloween is a remake that's more or less a retelling of the same story of Carpenter's original film, at least with Halloween 2's sibling angle thrown in. Michael Myers stalks his sister, Laurie Strode, with Dr. Loomis on the hunt to stop him. While the larger story is pretty much the same, Zombie digs much deeper into Michael's broken childhood, his relationship with his mother, and the rough life that he had helped turn him into the shape. He even has an assortment of masks that represent his many emotions, not just the iconic white mask. More of a character study for its first half, Halloween attempts to find the man and psychology behind the Boogeyman, turning him into a more realistic serial killer, whose attacks are truly gruesome. Of course, there's mixed reactions on Halloween, whether it's better than the original or worse. Alright, so now we move to 2008. So Zombies Halloween 2 is set 1 year later, although released in 2009. So now we go back in to its own bizarre direction, with Michael finally speaking for the first time in his adult. He says die as he finally kills Dr. Loomis, played here by Malcolm McDowell, so we'll always welcome him. And then we have Laurie stabbing Michael to death and being sent to a mental institution, perhaps to continue the cycle. In this remake, Danielle Harris played Annie, Laurie's friend, and she comes back to the franchise as a different character, so let's add more confusion into the mix. There was another planned sequel, but Zombies' direction for the series was abandoned after that. So we move a little more recent with 2018 with the third movie in the franchise called Halloween. So 2018's Halloween by David Gordon Green. It's more of a return to form, and it's earned the approval of both Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter. So we wiped out everything that came before it saved the original, even part 2. So it returns to the basic elemental horror of Carpenter's original picture, with the aim of having some fun at remembering Michael was originally the shape before he became Big Brother Mikey, then Uncle Mikey, and then finally Busta Rhymes' vanquished foe Mikey. Of course, as you know, there are 2 more Halloween films coming. There's Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. As for what comes after that, I'm sure that something will. I'm going to be curious to see what that something is. I'll be honest. I'm all in for Halloween movies all the time. So, topic of the day. In the comments below, tell me which movies in the series you wish did not exist. So that wraps this one up. I want to hear from you. Post your thoughts on this video. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video. Make sure you subscribe. But most of all, make sure you keep it horror.